Double bag alert, double bag alert, double bag alert, folks. That's right. Geno Smith and Trey McBride gets paid, all right. Joe Milton heads to the Lone Star State. We have to talk about the takeaways from the NFL owners meetings, all right. And we are on the final divisional rodeo, folks. That's right. The AFC North, all right. All of this and more on the 75th episode of the Football Junkies podcast, all right? I am your host with the most, all right? I am your chief bagrodamus. I am your chief head of the table, anything and everything related to the bag and more, okay? I am the man with the plan. I am your GM who currently is not on a team right now, but don't you worry about it, okay? Don't you worry about it, because guess what? I got two mock drafts for two different teams lined up already. May post them today, may post them tomorrow. I don't know. Stay tuned though. I am all these things and more. But most importantly, the most important thing that you must remember is I'm your host, Kale. You already know how these things are about to go. You already know how these episodes are about to go. A bunch of truth bombs, a bunch of reality checks, a bunch of controversial things that may be said. But guess what? It's all out of love, because guess what? We got to give the people what they need. And what is that? Their football junkies fix to end the week. So guess what? On three, one, two, three, let's lock in. All right, folks, let's just get into the meat and potatoes of everything that is going on in the league right now. Before we go any further, make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, turn the notification bell on, download the episodes, all those things and more, so we can continue to give you guys the football fix that you guys love and need. Okay, so let's just get into it. So Geno Smith inks a 2-year, $75 million extension that can go up to $85.5 million. All right, $66.5 million guaranteed, and he'll be making $37.5 million a year, which really isn't bad. Now, when we look at his stats for last season, 578 attempts for 407 completions, 4,320 passing yards, 21 touchdowns, 15 picks, 7.5 yards per attempt, and a 70.4 completion percentage. Geno Smith is still a really productive quarterback, all right? He is somebody that he's not going to woo you with his play. He is somebody that he's going to get the job done. He's not somebody that's going to be in the same conversation as a Mahomes, a Burrow, a Lamar, or a Josh Allen. He is somebody that's sort of like in that Baker Mayfield type of realm, all right? Somebody that he's going to win you some games. He's going to make some crazy plays, but he's not the creme de la creme when it comes to quarterbacks. Not to mention, we all know that he had his best years under Pete Carroll. So it was only right for them to make sure that they lock him up, because when they traded for him, he was on the last year of his deal that the Seahawks gave him. So all it is just adding on 2 more years, which really isn't bad. Really think about this for a second here. You got Geno Smith for 2 more years, and he's only making $37.5 million a year. That's not really bad. It doesn't break the bank. It doesn't put you in cap hell. It doesn't do any of those things. Not to mention, in some ways, you can push back on the priority of quarterback for maybe another 2 years if you choose to do that. Now, at the same time, maybe next year you may want to still take a quarterback just in case, if you see a little bit of regression. You can still do that, because why? His contract is not something where it's ironclad that you have to, stick through it and all those different types of things. It's not like that. It's a very simple deal. It's somewhat of a deal that what Baker Mayfield got from the Buccaneers. So all in all, both sides win. Now, when we look at Trey McBride's deal, all right, 4 years, $76 million, $43 million guaranteed, and he'll be making $19 million a year. When we look at his stats, 147 targets for 111 receptions, 1,146 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns, 10.3 receiving yards per attempt. When you look at these stats, you're probably thinking, you mean to tell me they reset the market for Trey McBride based off of these stats? Yes. You have to turn on the tape. You got to see his performance. Trey McBride, within the last 3 years, has been one of the rising stars when it comes to tight ends. You were talking about somebody that when he gets the ball, he's going to make a play. Better yet, he's going to extend the play as long as he can. We have seen multiple games where he'll turn a 5-yard game into a 15-yard game or a 20-yard game. That's just how skilled he is. Not to mention, he's someone that sort of flies under the radar when it comes to his performance. He has definitely been one of the more consistent weapons for Kyler Murray. Not to mention, he's put everywhere. Sometimes they'll have him lined up in the slot. Sometimes they'll have him, block. They'll have him everywhere. And Trey McBride does it all. So it was only right for the Cardinals to make him the highest paid tight end. Because now what you're starting to see is, and this probably dates back all the way to maybe the Gronk years, is that quarterbacks love having a reliable tight end. A tight end is a quarterback's best friend. Because when you need them the most, they're always there to get you out of a pinch. Look at all the great quarterbacks in NFL history. They've all had a really great tight end. From Brady to Gronk to Manning and Dallas Clark, which, just on a side note, Dallas Clark and Madden within the last few years, unstoppable. Don't ask me how I know. Mook, if you're listening to this, don't even start. Don't even pull up the clips. We're not going there. All right. Now back to the situation at hand. We are starting to see a resurgence in the tight end position as a whole. We are starting to see teams now value the position of tight end, because normally back in the day, the tight end was like the really big bulky dude that, he may get, 5 yards, or he may get, 5 to 10 catches a game, where now you're starting to see them get 1,000-yard receiving seasons like a receiver. And so it's only going to continue to go up from here at this point. And Trey McBride is somebody that is going to kick down the door when it comes to the next generation of tight ends. When you have people like him and Isaiah Likely and Pat Freiermuth and who else? Sam Laporta. Like, there's a lot of tight ends right now that are monsters that pretty soon they're going to get paid as well. I would not be surprised if Sam Laporta shatters the tight end market again. Just saying. Now let's get into this Joe Milton trade situation. So Joe Milton was traded to the Dallas Cowboys yesterday, all right? So the Cowboys receive, of course, Joe Milton in a 7th-round pick, and the Patriots receive a 5th-round pick. Now, according to Jordan Schultz, he had interest from multiple teams. Some of those teams included the Raiders, the Steelers, the Eagles, Dallas. But apparently, his preferred destination was Dallas. And I can respect that. And I love that the team granted him his preferred destination instead of just sending him to a place that gave them the best offer. Now, I know there's a lot of Steelers fans that are very butthurt about this, because I was just arguing with one yesterday about it on Twitter, at GMKale, by the way. GMKale, Kaile. And he was basically in his feelings and basically saying, well, he's overrated, and why in the world would we want somebody that's overrated? There's no need for getting him. He's not overrated. He's a project. He was a project coming out of college. He was never going to be this 1st rounder, a 2nd rounder, or a 3rd rounder. None of those things. He was very raw. Sure, he has the athleticism. Sure, he has the big arm. Sure, he can throw really fast, and it's a beautiful, it's a beautiful motion. All of those things. But the fact of the matter is, he hasn't had a lot of opportunities to play. And so with the Patriots signing Josh Dobbs, he was going to get buried in the quarterback room. And so instead of that happening, you might as well just want to put him in a better situation with Dallas, because we know sometimes Dak will get a little bit hurt. So this, in some ways, is an insurance policy. It's not he's going to be your replacement. No, it's just insurance policy. That's all it is. Joe Milton, at best, could probably be a career backup. And that's perfectly fine. You can still make a lot of money being a career backup. It's not going to hurt anybody. Now, I will say this. For any person that feels like Joe Milton is overrated, your expectations for Joe Milton is too high. We all know that Joe Milton is a work in progress, that this is going to be a 2, a 3, or maybe even a 4-year project. And it's going to take you a while, and it's going to be nasty, and it's going to be ugly, but at best, like I said before, like I just said, he's probably going to be a career backup, and that's perfectly fine. So let's get into all the stuff that we need to talk about when it comes to the NFL owners meeting. So a few things were passed, a few things were tabled. And when I mean tabled, that means that they will be, talked about and probably voted on in a later part of the year and whatnot. So here are just a few things. So one of the things that was passed, if I'm not mistaken, and it was actually proposed by the Eagles, which is crazy, which is during the regular season in overtime, both teams are guaranteed a possession, which, that's not really bad. Another rule that was passed, which was proposed by the Steelers, is during the negotiation period of free agency, teams are allowed to have one video call or phone call with no more than 5 free agents. That's not bad. Now, could this go in a few different directions? Yes. Could a team probably try to, manipulate the rule or whatever? Yes, it'll probably happen. But I like the idea. I just want to see how it's going to be used moving forward. And I'll just leave it there. So a resolution was passed to basically get rid of the chain gang and replace it with this Sony Hawkeye technology that will be measuring first downs. Let's be real here. In the last few years, we have seen the chain gang mess up very badly when it comes to a lot of calls. We have seen them give people first downs when we know it wasn't a first down. And so, on one hand, it sucks because that takes away jobs for those people and whatnot. But at the same time, we've reached a point now where technology is a little bit more accurate and it's a little bit more better and it's a little bit more consistent than what the chain gang was. Like, we literally saw somebody use a card to determine if the football passed the first down threshold or not. It was time, all right? Now, here is something that was tabled but was proposed by the Lions. During the seeding for the playoffs, teams will be seeded based on their regular season record instead of division championships. On one hand, I do like this, but I don't know how to really feel about this. Because on one hand, I understand the thought, but I feel like you still have to weigh division rivals a little bit more. Because I think when you still value division rivals, I think it makes the matchups like more intense instead of just saying, oh, with a better record, then you're going to have a higher seeding. No. It still needs to be determined of what happens in your division. Because guess what? You could lose each and every one of your divisional games, but if you have the best record or one of the best records, guess what? You're going to have a high seed. That's not really fair. So, Lions, you thought you thought you were going to be sneaky, but clearly it backfired, and here we go. Now, here was something else that wasn't approved. It was actually shot down, and it was proposed by who? The Lions. Get rid of automatic first downs for any defensive holding or illegal contact. Lions are being very sneaky now. We can't be doing this, all right? This isn't jail ball. This is football. Come on. We all know that you guys have corners that like to be a little handsy and whatnot, so it wasn't approved. So stop it, all right? Here is something that I think it could open things up for special teams, and that is touchbacks on kickoffs will be marked at the 35-yard line. Let's be real here, folks. In the last few years, the NFL has definitely tried to make the kickoff a little bit more safer because we have seen some very horrible injuries when it comes to the kickoff. And so, on one hand, I understand that they're trying to fix it and they're trying to keep special teams, and that's perfectly fine. But at the same time, you don't want to mess up special teams and kick off to the point where it could actually hurt a team than actually help the team. When we looked at last year, we didn't see a whole lot of, kickoff returns like we have seen in the past. And honestly speaking, there was a point in time where I didn't like the kickoff. I just felt like it was stupid. Not to mention, it also is a disadvantage for rookies because you know why? College football still does the old traditional kickoff, but the NFL has changed. So you would think with them passing the resolution that they did last year or the year before last, that college football would have, instituted a change as well. But clearly that's not the case. And clearly that is very much needed. That's the only way that players will be able to be adapted to the changing times. Otherwise, it's going to be a learning curve for any person that's coming into the league. So that resolution is sort of a wait and see type of situation because I already know there's probably going to be a special teams coach or coordinator or whomever that's going to come up with something crazy. I just know it. I know it's somebody is cooking up a strategy right now. Wait. Just you wait and see. Somebody's going to do something crazy that's going to catch everybody off guard. But moving forward, the banning of the tush push was tabled, and this was proposed by the Packers. Here is something that I think that needs to be talked about with the tush push. On one hand, yes, I understand it's basically the most broken move in football, and that nobody can stop it. But I think we have to look at the side effects when it comes to the health of the players that perform the tush push. You are literally burying yourself at the opponent's legs and knees in order to get to the first down. That's not safe at all because it will take the right player who will be just as ballsy and gutsy to do it that will literally deliberately try to basically headbutt himself to try to stop the tush push from happening. At this point, I think we need to look at the side effects that may come with this instead of just saying, oh, we need to continue to keep this play going. No, I am against the tush push. I think it is a very dangerous move. I think it is a move that puts offensive linemen in harm's way. I think it puts defensive players in harm's way. And I think it is a move that all it takes is just one situation and it can cause a serious injury to somebody. And I don't want that to happen. I don't want to continue to see players being carted off and whatnot because they're just trying to stop a play from happening. I don't want to see that. So at some point, the league is going to have to come in and the league is going to have to figure out a way to get rid of this tush push. Now, could there be a more safer option? Sure, perfectly fine. But right now, the current version of the tush push is not healthy and it's not safe. Now, I probably sound like a parent, but who really cares at this point? Because when you look at the interviews from those Eagles offensive linemen, some of them say like they don't get feeling back in their legs or their arms or their neck and whatnot for a few days. I'm sorry if I'm the owner, if I'm anybody that is high up within the NFL, we have to come together and we have to ban this move because we just finished writing almost $1 billion check for CTE. You're going to have to probably write another one for each and every player that tried to do something similar to the tush push. Do you really want that? Probably not. Now let's get into the divisional rodeo, folks. Man, we are just breezing by everything. This is probably going to be a very short episode. I'm just letting you guys know right now because there's really not a lot to talk about. Everybody's getting ready for the draft, so it's really not a lot of stuff to talk about right now. Everybody's doing their 30-day visits and finishing up on their big boards and all those different types of things. So it'll probably be a little bit of a quiet period. Most likely, I probably will not put out an episode next week depending on if Aaron Rodgers wants to take his head out of his ass and actually decide to make a decision and whatnot, maybe I'll do an episode. But most likely I'll probably just be working on clips from all the other previous episodes of the divisional rodeo and whatnot, and put those out for you guys. So let's just get into the divisional rodeo because we have a lot we have to talk about. Okay, so AFC North: Browns, Bengals, Ravens, and Steelers. Okay, so let's start with the Browns. Okay, so their salary, $19.2 million with a rollover cap of $41.9 million. They're free agents: Jedrick Willis, Nick Harris, Nick Chubb, Elijah Moore, Naheem Hines, Jordan Atkins, Maurice Hurst, Michael Dunn, Rodney McLeod, and Jermaine Ifedi, just to name a few. Okay. Now, when we look at their draft picks, okay, we all know they got their first, their second, they have 2 third-round picks, they don't have a fifth, they have a 4th-round pick, they have 4 6th-round picks, as well as 1 7th-round pick. So all in all, you have a lot of picks, which you're really going to need it because right now your team is in bad shape, really bad shape, all right? And when we look at positions of need, quarterback, running back, tackle, defensive line, let's be real here, folks. The Browns are in hell. The Browns are in hell. And they put themselves in this situation because they decided to they tripled down on trading for Deshaun Watson instead of trying to give Baker Mayfield a legitimate chance. Because let's be real here. During Baker Mayfield's time, there were a slew of head coaches, a slew of offensive coordinators, a slew of changes that were constantly happening almost every single offseason. So he never had stability. Now that he has stability, guess what? The Buccaneers see the best version of him, and they're benefiting off of it. Meanwhile, you're in a situation where you done gave this joker a fully guaranteed contract, and now you're trying to figure out how in the world can we build this team while we're giving this fool all of this money. So now you have to figure out exactly, 1, are we going to draft a quarterback? 2, what do we need to do to take us to the next level? And 3, do we have the resources right now, if we don't trust any of these quarterbacks, to make a trade for a veteran quarterback? Because right now, all you have is just Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. So right now, you have about 3 weeks to figure out if you're super high on both of those quarterbacks. And you have to figure out who are you going to get. So right now, you have a lot of tough decisions that you're going to have to make moving forward. You may not like them, but you're going to have to make them fairly soon. Even the Browns owner has come to the realization that he whiffed on Deshaun Watson. This is what he said at the owners' meeting, and I quote, "We took a big swing and miss with Deshaun. We thought we had the quarterback. We didn't. And we gave up a lot of draft picks to get him. So we've got to dig ourselves out of that hole. The trade was an entire organization decision, and it ends with D, his wife, and I," he's talking about himself, "so hold us accountable," end quote. Yes, you must be held accountable for this move because this was the dumbest move any person could have made. But you know what? It is perfect because you know why? The Browns make some of the most dumbest moves when it comes to quarterback. I can't even tell you how many quarterbacks they have basically ran through within the past 15 years. But there is a theory that I do believe in that I think it could happen. And Diana Rossini of The Athletic talked about it a little bit about a few days ago. And so basically she has heard from the grapevine that there is somewhat of a connection between Kirk Cousins and the Browns. And what is that connection? Kevin Stefanski. Kevin Stefanski was the offensive coordinator for the Vikings when Kirk Cousins was there. So I think that both of them have a pretty good relationship. And I think Kevin Stefanski would be open to getting someone like a Kirk Cousins. Now, the problem is this. Kirk Cousins' contract is really bad. And so you're going to be having to figure out a way to make that contract work with the cap space and everything moving forward. But the thing that works in the Browns' favor if they were to make this move is this. Kirk Cousins has a no trade clause. So Kirk Cousins can dictate where he wants to go. He can literally force the Falcons to send him to the Browns. And not to mention, The Falcons can't ask for a first round pick. They can't even ask for a second or a third round pick. At best, they could probably just ask for maybe a fourth round pick that could turn into a third round pick based off of certain criteria. So at this point, if you are the Browns, you have to weigh out every single option. Now, I know today is the Colorado's pro day. It was originally supposed to be yesterday, but they had inclement weather, so they pushed it to today. So maybe they'll be super confident in Shador after his pro day. I don't know, but they have a lot of tough decisions that they're going to have to make. Now, running back, it's not that high of a priority. You can get that, day 2 or day 3, honestly. Tackle, I do feel like that is another priority of a need. I think outside of quarterback, that needs to be the second pick that needs to be made. Because right now, you have a question mark when it comes to left tackle, as well as right tackle as well. Wyatt Teller is getting up in age, and so right now, you may want to try to maybe get a succession plan going for him. And so right now, you do have some options because I do believe there's going to be some pretty good tackles that will be available in, the second, third, and fourth round. The question is, how high are you on them? Because you can get someone like a Charles Grant who has positional flexibility. You can get someone like a Josh Conley who he's better in pass protection than run protection. You can go and get Donovan Jackson. You have options at tackle, but you are going to have to invest a high pick in getting one. Now, defensive line, you can double dip with that. I think if you get one maybe in the third and then maybe in the sixth or maybe fourth round, I think that would be good. Because right now, you need to bolster up that defense a little bit more. Because all you have is just Greg Newsome, Denzel Ward, and Myles Garrett. You don't really have anybody else. So you need to start making significant draft changes right now. You have to start hitting on your draft picks. Now, luckily, you have a lot of draft picks this year. So you can address a lot of these needs. But at the same time, you need to choose quality over quantity. Don't get the person that went to Alabama. If there's somebody that you are really high on, just get him. Because right now, the Browns, how can I say this? The Browns are in such a bad situation that it's going to take them at least 5 years to really be competitive. Now, granted, Deshaun Watson's contract, if I'm not mistaken, ends in 2 years, which is great. But I mean that you're still taking on a lot of money. So I really don't know what to tell you, Browns fans. But when we look at candidates for restructure, extension, trades, and cuts, David Njoku is a question mark for an extension. And the only reason why I say that is because does David Njoku want to stay with the Browns? Does the Browns want to keep David Njoku? Because right now, if you trade away David Njoku, you could probably get some pretty high picks for him. Just saying. Same thing with Greg Newsome. Trade or an extension. Because right now you have a lot of large contracts on your books, and so you're going to have to find a way to make everything fit with the cap restrictions that you have. Same thing with Wyatt Teller. Now, if you give Wyatt Teller an extension, his market value is 3 years, $23.3 million, which is only $7.8 million a year. That's not bad. That's actually pretty good. Deshaun Watson, restructure. You can continue to try to do a restructure, but at this point, I think it's just best that you just take it on. Take all of it all at once, and then you'll be fine. That way, you'll have a whole bunch of cap space to play with once his contract is over with, and you don't have nothing to worry about compared to trying to push things down the road and kick the can down the road, all right? The main takeaway from the Browns is this: rebuild. That's what you're going to have to do at this point. Because right now, you are in such of a fucked up situation. I mean exactly the way that I say it. That you are going to just have to let certain things just play out. You are literally going to have to let some contracts just expire. Just so you can, one, clean up your books, get rid of that toxic energy, while at the same time try to reshape this team. You've learned your lesson. You realize, hey, don't put all your eggs in the house, in the car, and everything else in one basket for one person. Don't do it. Because this is what happens. You don't get anything out of it. He's enjoying his life, enjoying the money that he's getting, while you are trying to figure out what you're going to do moving forward with quarterback. But guess what? The Browns will be the Browns. Sorry, Browns fans. Now, moving on to the Bengals, all right? So, with their salary, $24.4 million with a rollover cap of $5.9 million, they're free agents. Mike Hilton, Joe Bessie, Von Bell, Travion Williams, Deontay Smith, Cade York, and Chris Evans, just to name a few, all right? Your draft picks. You got your first, your second, your third, your fourth, your fifth, and your sixth. You don't have a seventh round pick, all right? Positions of need. DB, both cornerback and safety. Edge, D-tackle, linebacker, interior offensive line. All right? Here's the problem with the Bengals. You have put so much money into literally 3 people that now you're going to have to really start hitting on your draft picks. Beforehand, you really didn't have to as much. But now, you really have to start hitting on your draft picks, okay? You really have to start being consistent with great drafting. Because you done gave Jamar Chase a whole bunch of money. You done gave T. Higgins a whole bunch of money. And you done gave Joe Burrow a whole bunch of money. Not to mention, you still have another side of the ball that is very, very deprived of talent. And so now you're in a situation where a lot of the things that were somewhat hidden or not really talked about as much in the past are really starting to come to fruition. Which is, you guys are really cheap organization. You guys don't like paying your players. Why? I don't know. And so now you're at a crossroads where you're trying to figure out, hey, do we continue to be this cheap organization, or do we somewhat step into the modern era and actually value our players and actually take care of our players? Because right now you're in a situation where Trey Hendrickson wants to play for the Bengals. He's literally said he does not want to reset the market, but he wants what's his. And for you guys to basically have the approach that you have had shows me that you do not value your players. You do not value the hard work that they put in. You do not value the sacrifices that they put each and every single season and off season for this organization. And that to me is an atrocity. This is what a Bengals executive said about Trey Hendrickson in his trade talks. Miss Katie Blackburn. Okay, this is what she says, and I quote, "I think he should be happy at certain rates that maybe he doesn't think he'd be happy at. I think some of it is on him to be happy at some point. And if he's not, that's what it holds up sometimes. So, it takes him to say yes to something, and also we have all the respect in the world for him." Now, the quote that she just said definitely didn't make any sense. It sounded like she just had maybe about 3 or 4 mimosas, okay? That's why I had to stop and read it for a little bit, because it really didn't make any sense. But her approach is the same approach that the owner and everybody else in the Bengals front office has when it comes to contracts and players. Literally, you could have had Jamar Chase and T. Higgins for a discount last year. But instead, you took a risk and you said, you know what, we're not going to pay you. And in doing so, Jamar Chase wins the Triple Crown, and you have to reset the market for him. And you may have to pay more for T. Higgins. How does it feel, Bengals fans? How does it feel to root for an organization that continues to just give you the middle finger each and every offseason when it comes to paying their players? And so now you have to figure out, one, how can we somewhat be a little bit more competitive? And two, how in the world can we go back to the Super Bowl? Because right now, as long as you have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Joe Burrow, you do have somewhat of a small chance of making it back to the Super Bowl. But you have to build the rest of the team out. And you're going to have to do that through the draft. Because again, you put a lot of money behind T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Joe Burrow. So, let's get into the positions of need. So for DB, you can go about this a few different ways. You can draft a few, or you could pay Von Bell and then draft somebody else. But you're probably going to have to invest a high pick when it comes to both cornerback and safety. Now, luckily, the safety class is actually pretty good this year. So you could get a Malachi Starks. You could get a Nick Emenwari. You can get Andrew Makuba. You can get any of those type of safeties if you want to take that route. Now, if you want to take corner, right, you can get Will Johnson, Shavon Revel, Benjamin Morrison, Ezra Thomas, Trey Amos. You have options for both cornerback and safety. Now, edge, me personally, I'm not that very high on these edge rushers, personally. I just feel like for edge, you could probably get one in maybe day 2 or day 3, personally. I don't see a need to invest a first round pick into any of these edges. I feel like they are very unfinished products. I feel like just because they went to a certain school that it just gives them a bump in reputation and whatnot. And I feel like it's being fueled by a lot of media personalities, and I'll just leave it there. Defensive tackle, you can address that at any point in this draft. You can address that, in the first day, second day, third day, whenever. But you are going to have to make significant additions to this defensive line because outside of Trey Hendrickson, if he stays, all you have is B.J. Hill. That's not enough. You're going to need some more. Linebacker, you might as well just want to draft one because right now, Jermaine Pratt is probably not going to come back to the Bengals. And the other linebacker, who is somewhat of a dirty tackler, but that's another story for another day. That's all you have. You don't really have anything. The Bengals defense is so bad that they're going to probably have to invest at least half of their draft picks to the defense alone. Interior offensive line, though, I feel like that could be a sneaky first round pick. And let me explain why. Gray Zabel. And I understand people are probably tired of me talking about Gray Zabel, but you have to hear me out. Gray Zabel, to me, has such a high potential that you have to get him. You have to make that move because he has positional flexibility like no other. He could probably be elite at both guard and tackle. I'm talking about the best of the best. Or you can take the route and get Tyler Booker if you want to. But remember, during the combine, especially for the offensive linemen, both of these two were tried at center as well. So I think making that investment would also benefit Joe Burrow as well because you don't want Joe taking all these hits. So you're going to have to protect him. Sure, you have the weapons and you can get more weapons and in the later parts of the draft. But you are going to have to protect him a little bit better, okay? Now, when we look at candidates for restructure, extension, trades, and cuts, Trey Hendrickson, trade him. Trade him. You have shown an unwillingness to pay him. Trade him. When we look at his market value, it's 2 years, $62.9 million, which is $31.5 million a year. Now, I think he could probably demand a little bit more, maybe about 34, maybe 35, possibly, maybe even a little bit more. Jermaine Pratt, trade him. Trade him. You're not going to pay him. Trade him. Get rid of these guys. Cam Taylor-Britt, you could give him an extension, and I only say that because his market value is fairly low, and I feel like he can't demand a whole bunch of money. Now, when we look at his market value, it's only 4 years, $59.7 million, which is only $14.9 million a year. That's not bad. I think that's right around the ballpark that the Bengals will probably pay him. And so, all in all, just get rid of people that you are not willing to pay top dollar for. Even Trey Hendrickson had something to say about this on the Pat McAfee show. This is what he said, and I quote, "Through this process, communication, when I say it's been poor, it's been like here and there. In respect to Jamar and T, I don't want to take anything from all the great things they've accomplished in their careers. They deserve everything that they've gotten, and no doubt in my mind they're going to excel in the National Football League. I have a tremendous respect for both of them. But when it comes to my situation, it would have been nice to know in some ways, hey, we're going to put you in the queue. No problem with me. End quote. He also said this as well, and I quote, "We're on the DN, National Football League Street. The market value for that is going up like it did for wide receivers last year," which is true. "Where I fit in that road is all up to the discretion. We're willing to talk about those things with the market continuing to go up. I'm not going to apologize for that because I've been basically asking for the same thing every year, to be solidified as a Cincinnati Bengal for life." End quote. That is somebody who is willing to end his career with the Bengals. But the Bengals have their head so far up their ass that they don't even realize that they have someone who is loyal to the team through and through. Trey Hendrickson was a breath of fresh air when he signed with the Bengals. He has been killing it each and every season. And so why wouldn't you want to pay him? It'll be different if he said, "Hey, I'm trying to reset the market." It'll be different if he's trying to say, "Hey, I want something like Myles Garrett." But he's not. He's just trying to get what he's due. And the fact that you have basically put him on the back burner is so disrespectful. Because who else do you need to pay right now? Who else is a top priority? You already took care of the two most important people in Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Who else do you need to take care of? What else do you need to do? So if you are not going to pay him, trade him. And please, for the love of God, stop having these high expectations for a team to give you a first-round pick for Trey Hendrickson. Stop. Just stop. Stop being just fools when it comes to the business side of the ball. Joe Burrow is trying his hardest to break you guys out of this mold that you guys have been in for the last 20 and 30 years. But you guys are so reluctant to do that guess what? That will be the reason why you will never go back to another Super Bowl, because you guys are not willing to pay top dollar for the players that actually deserve it. Now, when we look at the Bengals in its entirety, let's just be real here. I think the head coach, I think his seat is getting a little bit warm, because last season, it really wasn't that good. It was tough. Now, granted, they went on that run in the later part of the season, which was phenomenal, which me personally, I feel like they should have made it into the playoffs instead of the Steelers. Steeler fans, if you want to fight me, that's perfectly fine, but I said it and I'll stand on it. The Bengals should have made it to the playoffs instead of the Steelers because they won out. They won out against some very tough teams. They were able to do that. And so they should have made it to the playoffs. Unfortunately, they didn't, but right now they're at a crossroads. You can continue to stay in cheapness, or you can step outside of the boat, step on land, and say, "Hey, listen, we're going to change our ways. We're going to be a little bit more open, and we're going to change things around for this organization, for the betterment of our players, and for a better chance of possibly winning a championship." And I'll leave it there. Now on to the Ravens, okay? When we look at their salary, okay, $12.2 million with a rollover cap of $2.1 million. Now when it comes to the free agents, Deontay Johnson, Marcus Williams, Tre'Davious White, Nelson Aguilar, Arthur Marlette, Josh Johnson, Brent Urban, Deontay Hardy, Trevion Mullen, Christian Matthews, and Owen Wright. Let's get into these draft picks, okay? So you got your first, your second, your third. You have 2 fourth-round picks. You have your fifth. You have 4 sixth-round picks and 1 seventh-round pick. So all in all, you have a lot of picks. Okay, cool. Positions of need: guard, edge, safety, and receiver. Now, receiver is a little bit controversial, but I'll explain it, okay? So all in all, you're still in your Super Bowl window. You're still in a really good spot. You don't have a lot of big needs that you need to fill, okay? I think personally, guard and edge are 1A and 1B when it comes to positions of need. And let me explain why. Guard, at this point, you need to make a significant draft pick for, because Daniel Faalele is ass. Daniel Faalele is trash ass. Okay? Think of the most stinkiest trash can you could possibly find. I'm talking about a trash can that has been sitting out on a hot summer day. I'm talking about the hottest day you could possibly remember. And it just stinks. The minute you open the door, it just stinks. That's Daniel Falele, folks. And it's no disrespect to him, but you have not been playing good, sir. So right now, you need to be put on the bench. You need to be put on ice at this point. Now, the problem with the Ravens is this. You are not in a position where you could possibly get a good interior offensive lineman in the first round if you want to take that route. Because right now, if they get Tyler Booker or if they get Gray Zabel, oh, it's over. It's curtains, especially Gray Zabel. Because I think Gray Zabel to the Ravens would be such of a hit that they will have arguably one of the greatest offensive lines in NFL history. Not to mention the Ravens have a history of developing really great offensive linemen. And so I think that would be a great place for him. Now, edge, I'm a little bit on the fence about, and I'll explain why. There's probably only one edge rusher in the first round that I probably would be head over heels for, and that's Mike Green. Outside of that, I can probably talk myself out of everybody else, and it's no disrespect to any of them, but there's not like a TJ Watt in this draft class. There's not like a what's a good pass rusher? What's a really good pass rusher? There's not like a pass rusher that just everyone just wants. This is a draft class when it comes to pass rushers where, sure, there may be a few that may interest you. Sure, their skill set would probably be an upgrade for your team, but it's a whole lot of what ifs, not a lot of certainties when it comes to these edge rushers. And I feel like Mike Green, from a skill set standpoint, has a lot of upside to his game. I feel like, and this is just me personally, this is the comp that I have for Mike Green, I think his comp is TJ Watt. I think Mike Green, if put in the right situation, he could be a poor man's version of TJ Watt. I really do. I think everybody else, it's a shot in the dark. Just being honest here. Now, safety could be a sleeper of a first round pick, and let me explain why. With the uncertainty of our Darius Washington possibly, re-signing with the team, and Marcus Williams not coming back to the team at all, I feel like drafting a safety in the first round could be a possible hit. Now, again, the problem with that move is you are so low in the draft that guess what? You probably won't be able to get any of the top safeties. That's the only problem in every other position of need that they have right now, is that they're too low in the draft for them to get any of the top players within those positions. And so most likely you're going to have to trade up. Now, luckily, this is just my prediction personally, I think a lot of teams are going to trade down or possibly trade out of the first round because, again, as I've said before and a lot of people have also said as well, this is not a really good draft class. This is not a draft class where it's a bunch of oohs and ahs and, oh man, I want that person, or oh man, I want that person, or I want that person, I want that person. It's not a lot of those type of players in this draft class. It's a lot of developmental players in this draft class. It's a lot of players that it's going to take you about 2, maybe 3, maybe 4 years to really see what you have in these players. So me personally, if I am the Ravens, you can go about safety a few different ways. You could address it in the first round, which means you're going to have to trade up, possibly maybe in the teens, or you could take a risk and maybe see who falls out the first round and then go on attack mode in the second round. Because I think someone like Xavier Watts, man, let me tell you something. Xavier Watts paired up with Kyle Hamilton, even though they were college teammates, the brothers of destruction. The brothers of destruction. Okay? That's like putting prime Troy Polamalu and prime Ed Reed on one team. Mook, I promise you, we're not having those conversations. I can assure you, we will not be having those conversations if this does happen. Okay? For all of those who don't know who Mook is, Mook is a really good friend of mine who's a Ravens fan. So, yeah, we'll just leave it there. Okay? Maybe one day he'll make a guest appearance or whatnot. But the fact of the matter is this: you could probably get Nick Emmanwori, but the only problem is it's going to take him a while to be properly developed. You can get someone like Malachi Starks, who is probably the most balanced safety prospect out of all of them. Now, I have been able to review some of the all 22 from Malachi Starks, and I can tell you this: he's good. He's a really good safety. The only knock that I find in his game is he's not a willing tackler. He's not the best when it comes to his tackling technique. I think that is probably the only thing that would hinder him from possibly being drafted super high. Me personally, and this is just my personal opinions, and I will continue to say this and stand on this, I feel like, to me, Malachi Starks is more of an NFC type of safety. And I feel like Nick Emmanwori and Xavier Watts are more AFC type of safeties. And let me explain why. A lot of AFC teams, they require their DBs, both cornerbacks and safeties, to be at least of a decent tackler. NFC teams, on the other hand, not so much. And we all know that the AFC is more physical than the NFC. And so I feel like Malachi Starks' game would thrive on a team like, I don't know, the Eagles or the Seahawks or 49ers or any of those teams, compared to if you went to the Steelers or the Chiefs or the Jaguars or the Colts or the Texans or any of those different types of teams. But back to the situation at hand. If you are the Ravens, you don't have a lot of tough decisions that you have to make, but at the same time, do you really need to use all of your draft picks? No. I think if you trade it up in the high teens, maybe like the 12th or the 13th pick to get whoever you want, okay, that's perfectly fine. No one's really complaining about it. But you don't really need a whole lot of players anyway. Because why? Your team is mainly set right now. You just have to add and just upgrade a few different spots. Even with receiver, like I put it on here, but then I wanted to take it off. I don't feel like receiver is a high need. Because you have D-Hop, Rashad Bateman, Zay Flowers, Tez Walker, and I think you have one more person. And even then, if you really want to get a receiver, you could get a receiver in the fourth or fifth round, honestly. Take a swing at somebody. But you have to start giving people like Tez Walker a chance. Because Tez Walker has the upside to be a really good receiver. He's got the size. He got the speed. He got the build. He has it all. He just has to get more reps and more playing time. That's it. End of discussion. Now, when we look at candidates for restructure, extension, trades, and cuts, Trey White, extension. He's probably cornerback 4, cornerback 5 at this point. 1 year, $1.3 million, which is only $1.4 million a year. Light work. Lamar Jackson, extension. You're going to have to do it soon. Derrick Henry, extension. His market value is 2 years, $27.5 million, which is $13.8 million. Now, for some Ravens fans, you're probably thinking, hey, that's a lot of money. Well, guess what? Derrick Henry was doing his thing late last season. Derrick Henry is the reason why the Steelers this year are going to have to draft at least probably 2 defensive linemen. In the discussion, Kyle Hamilton, extension, market value, 3 years, $60.8 million, which is $20.3 million a year. You are going to reset the market for Kyle Hamilton. You are probably going to reset the market for Tyler Linderbaum as well. Because those are Ravens for life type of players. Those are players that will end their career with the Ravens. Those are the type of players that you will find every way to never let them hit free agency. Don't even whiff with free agency. Now we look at Tyler Linderbaum's market value. 3 years, $48.2 million, which is $16.1 million a year. That's not really bad, honestly. Now, when we look at a somewhat of a breakdown with Lamar Jackson's contract, okay, his cap hit this year is $43.6 million, and then next year it's $74.6 million. And then the year after that is 74.6. So you probably want to bring down those cap hits just a little bit, while at the same time giving Lamar a little bit more money. Now, when we look at, Roquan Smith, because I had him for a restructure, but then I had to look at his contract, and looking at his contract, it's really not that bad. Sure, you could probably bring down the cap hits just a little bit, just to create a little bit more cap space. But all in all, I think the Ravens are in a pretty good spot. But time is ticking for them. Okay? This is what Steve Bisciotti said on the state of the Ravens right now. And I quote, "I want to win now." End quote. That's one. Okay? This is what else he says. And I quote, "We've got a window with Lamar. I know what we can do. I know that we work to put ourselves in position to win. We all get credit for that. That's all you can do. I hate it that every year you just have to start back over again. But you know what? This is not for the meek." End quote. So Steve Bisciotti, Ravens owner, is letting everybody know, like, listen, we have the team to win. As long as we have Lamar Jackson, we'll always have a chance to win. We'll always have a chance to possibly win a Super Bowl. Which he's not lying. That is the truth. But time is running out. You have to win a Super Bowl to justify every single move that you have made so far. From the trade for Roquan Smith to the drafting of Tyler Linderbaum, Kyle Hamilton, and Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers, and giving Lamar the extension that they gave him, and then, making the move for Derrick Henry and all those different things. You have to be able to justify all of those moves by winning a Super Bowl. Now, granted, I understand it's tough to do that when you got, Mahomes and Burrow and Josh Allen all in your own conference, and Justin Herbert and whatnot. I get that. But every single year, you guys are super dominant in the regular season. But when it gets to the playoffs, you guys freeze. You guys are choking on Popeye's biscuits. Cold Popeye's biscuits, to be specific. And so now you have to find a way to get over that hump. You have to be able to make it to the big dance. That's the only way that you can really say, hey, it was all worth it. Every move, every cut, every signing, every trade, every draft pick, all of it was worth it by holding up Lombardi. Now, granted, respect to John Harbaugh for doing what he did to his coaching staff this offseason. It takes balls to make the move that he made. He called Chuck Pagano and got him to come out of retirement to join his coaching staff. I don't know if people understand Chuck Pagano. Chuck Pagano is probably one of the best when it comes to the secondary. So he is going to bring the best out of Kyle Hamilton. He's going to bring the best out of Nate Wiggins, out of TJ Tampa. Out of all of those guys, he's going to bring the best out of them. And then, not to mention, he made other additional moves when it came to his coaching staff. He brought in Chuck Smith. He brought back Dean Pease. So you see that there is a head coach that says, listen, my view is different. So maybe if I bring in somebody, maybe they can tell me something that I'm not doing, that I can fix, that can take us to the next level. That takes balls to do it. And John Harbaugh did that. And I can respect him for it. So when we look at, everything in its entirety, the Ravens are in a good space. It's just right now you just have to win. That's it. You have to win. Do what you need to do to position yourself to win. If you do that, you'll be able to be a champion. That's it. Now on to the final team of the divisional rodeo, folks. And that is the Steelers. So your salary, $34.6 million with a rollover cap of $6.8 million. Your free agents, Preston Smith, C.J. Henderson, DeMonte KZ, McCole Pruitt, Tyler Matakevich, Cam Sutton, Max Sharping, and Calvin Anderson, just to name a few, all right? Your draft picks, you got your first, you don't have a second because you used that to get DK Metcalf. You have your third, your fourth, your fifth, you don't have a sixth, and you have 2 7th-round picks. Your positions of need, quarterback, corner, defensive line, and running back. You could probably put wide receiver in there too, maybe. So here's the problem with the Steelers. You are waiting for a 42-year-old quarterback to make a decision on if he wants to play or not. And I'm probably going to go on a rant, probably for the rest of this episode, but I think it's very much needed at this point. And I feel like I am in a position where I can say what I'm about to say. To hell with Aaron Rodgers. To hell with Aaron Rodgers. You guys are waiting for somebody to make his decision. He is dragging his feet on figuring out if he wants to play or not. To me, this shows to me, and I can be 100% wrong, that he does not want to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He is waiting for a better opportunity to arise so that he could go to that specific place. I think he's waiting to see what the Vikings are going to do. I don't think the Steelers was his top choice. I think we were probably his last choice, if we're being real here. And I can understand why, because the Vikings are in a better place from a roster standpoint. They have the weapons. They have the defense. They have it all. They are closer to being a Super Bowl contender than what the Steelers are. I understand all of that. But why in the world would you go out your way to meet up with DK Metcalf, the arguably number one receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers? You met up with him. You had a professional videographer and photographer to come in and take pictures and video of you guys practicing. Why would you do that? Think about that for a second here, folks. Why in the world would Aaron Rodgers want to do that? Because you know why? It's all about him. It's all about him. It's all about Aaron Rodgers. It's always been about Aaron Rodgers. This is just me personally. If Aaron Rodgers is going to make his announcement next week when Pat McAfee show has this big show in Pittsburgh, kiss my ass. Kiss my ass. Because you know why? You are showing that you are not committed enough to be my quarterback. You are showing to me that you are not willing to just sign the contract. Sign the damn contract. What is taking so damn long for you to figure out if you want to play football or not? If you don't want to play for the Steelers, just say that. Just say that. I would be so much better if we just said, you know what, we'll just roll with Mason Rudolph. We'll bring in possibly, Joe Flacco or Carson Wentz or any of those other remaining veteran quarterbacks, and then draft, Riley Leonard or Will Howard or Jalen Milroe or any of those guys, compared to waiting for a 42-year-old to figure out exactly what the hell does he want to do with himself. He's been dragging his feet this entire time. And I understand that the season is grueling, and I understand that you want time for yourself, and I understand that you want time to just breathe a little bit. Enjoy life. Enjoy the fruits of your labor. I have no problem with that. But we are 3 weeks away from the draft. And this fool, and I mean fool, has not come to a decision yet on if he wants to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers are not going to give him more money. The Steelers are not going to up the ante to force him to come and sign the contract. If he does not want to come and sign this contract, let it go. Let it go. Art Rooney said it best. Art Rooney is getting ticked off. There are probably people within the organization that are getting very tired of just waiting for Aaron Rodgers. Roll with Mason Rudolph. You're not going to win a whole bunch of games this season. You are not going to go anywhere. That's not the goal. The goal is to position yourself for next year to make a big swing and to get your quarterback. That's what it is. So stop waiting for somebody that's not committed. He hasn't been committed, because I guarantee you right now, the moment that you sign him, and I said this a few episodes ago, the moment that you sign him, everything that you guys do will be documented and exposed. So if you have a problem with Aaron Rodgers, guess what? Most likely he's going to talk about it on what? The Pat McAfee show. Do you really want that? No. Well, you know what? I really don't understand. What I don't understand for the life of me is you have Mike Tomlin that is playing the favorites game when it comes to Aaron Rodgers. When he should have said, you know what, we do have a deadline for Aaron Rodgers, and if he does not, if we don't have a decision by then we will we'll go in a different direction, and we'll make some additions. Omar Khan said that he wanted to have 4 quarterbacks on the roster. Omar Khan is going to make that move, with or without Aaron Rodgers. I'll put a bookmark for that because we have more stuff that we have to talk about. Corner. I put corner on here because right now you don't have a succession plan after Darius Slay. All you have is just Joey Porter Jr., Beanie Bishop, and Brandon Echols. And Corey Trice as well. But the problem with Corey Trice is what? He hasn't been able to stay healthy. If Corey Trice stayed healthy, I feel like the need for corner would be diminished. But because he has not been able to stay healthy since being drafted, you have to now shoot that up to a top priority at this point. Because right now, you do not have a cornerback 1 on your team. Now, can Joey Porter Jr. turn into a cornerback 1? Possibly. There's a chance. But at this point, he is not cornerback 1. And I don't think Darius Slay is going to be playing for a whole lot longer. I just don't, personally. I think this is probably going to be his last year, and then he's going to retire. Defensive line. You are going to have to double dip at defensive line. Outside of Cam Hayward and Keanu Benton, who else do you have that you can say is really productive? Montravius Adams, he can be hit or miss sometimes. Isaiah Loudermilk, he is just a depth piece. Who else do you have on this defensive line that you can rely on? Nobody. So most likely, your first pick will probably be a defensive lineman. And your probably 3rd or maybe 4th round pick will probably be a defensive lineman as well. But you are going to have to make a significant investment into the defensive line because you have neglected it for so long. That is the only way that you can really get the best out of Cam Hayward and Keanu Benton and TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith and Nick Herbig and all those other guys. Now, running back, you can address that later, honestly speaking, but I wouldn't be surprised if they address it high. Because there's so many really good running backs that they could get that I think would match the system that they have currently. I think getting someone like Barshal Tootin or Damian Martinez or Caleb Johnson or Dylan Sampson or Omarion Hampton, any of those running backs would be great for the Steelers. Another position that needs to be talked about is safety, because we have seen their level of interest in safety. They have talked to, I think, just about every single top safety, from Malachi Starks to Nick Emenwari to Xavier Watts, Jalen Reed. They've talked to a lot of safeties. I'm just saying, I'm going to save that for that part, but I want you guys to keep a close eye on that. But when we look at candidates for restructure, extension, trades, and cuts, TJ Watt extension, we all know he's going to be a Steeler for life at this point. Market value, 4 years, $128.9 million, which is $32.2 million a year. I think it may be a little bit more. Debatable. Deshaun Elliott extension, because right now this is probably the best that he has played out of his entire career. And so you have to reward him for that. 3 years, $21.2 million, which is only $7.1 million a year. That's not bad at all, personally. George Pickens, trade. Either trade or extension. Because right now you're not about to pay DK Metcalf and George Pickens top receiver money. You're just not going to do that. And even when you look at his market value, it's 4 years, $94.2 million, which is $23.6 million a year. Here's the problem with George Pickens. And I'm just going to be completely honest here. George Pickens has the talent to be a top 5 receiver, but he has the attitude of an adolescent. I'm just going to be completely honest here. He is somebody who has all this potential in the world, but his attitude is so ass that teams, even the Steelers, are just fed up with him. When you have somebody that is not committed to the game like how he's supposed to be, teams are not going to want to invest into you. They're not going to want to do long-term business with you. You have somebody in George Pickens who showed up to the Chiefs game during Christmas late. You have somebody that will take off on plays, will crash out on the field, will have temper tantrums when he does not get the ball. This is literally somebody who got checked by Jaylen Warren because he did not block for Jaylen Warren. Think about that. Do you think any team, any of the 31 other teams will be willing to give George Pickens a whole bunch of money? No, because guess what? Sure, your talent may be great, but best believe there is somebody in the next draft, free agency, trade, whatever, that could probably do the same thing that you're doing or maybe even a little bit better. The world does not revolve around George Pickens. And I think the Steelers are starting to come around and starting to realize that. And so if I'm the Steelers, trade him. Because you already know there is a good chance that leading into training camp, this is going to get messy. This is going to turn into a drama-filled situation. Do you really want that? No. Trade him off, get a second-round pick for him, move forward. Calvin Austin, I had him listed for an extension, but with a question mark. And let me explain why. I think giving Calvin Austin an extension probably wouldn't break the bank. I don't think it would be something where it's like, super expensive, like 25 or 26 or like 30 million a year. No. But I think it probably would be a team-friendly deal. I think Calvin Austin will probably do something like that. Minkah Fitzpatrick, restructure. When we look at his contract right now, here's what it is. His base salary this year, 15.5, and then next year, 17.6. But his cap hits, okay? His cap hits is 22.3 million, and then next year is 24.4 million. I'm sorry, folks, but his play has not justified neither base salary or cap hits at this point. Minkah Fitzpatrick has not been the same. Now, I understand there was a year where he was hurt, and there was another year where he really wasn't playing in his position. I understand all of that, but, brother, you got to start playing. You got to start making some plays, bro. Because right now, the Steelers are showing you that they may be looking for your replacement. They've looked at every single top safety. Xavier Watts, Malachi Starks, Emmett Worry, Andrew Makuba. They've looked at them all. So if I'm Minkah Fitzpatrick, I may want to play with a little bit of anticipation. I may want to play like a chicken with his head cut off this season. Because right now, there is nothing that you have done within the last 2 years to say, hey, we should keep him. Hey, maybe if we just restructure his deal, or maybe if we do this or do that, maybe everything will be fine. No. Because since you've gotten this deal, you have not been the same player. And mind you, when we traded for him, those first 2 years, dominant. One of the best safeties in the league. Now, what has he done? You tell me. Because he hasn't done anything. Nothing. Nada. Zilch. Nothing. But when we look at the Steelers in its entirety, I think the best thing that has happened so far was the cleaning of their books. I think we have hit a point where we have had so much flexibility when it came to the cap that we don't even know what to do with it. Because remember, all those years when we had the killer bees, what was the number one problem that we had? You couldn't do anything because why? You had no cap space because he was paying AB and he was paying Big Ben and he was paying Pouncey and Castro and Foster and Alejandro Villanueva and then this person and that person. You're paying all these people. But now you have a little bit of flexibility, which is great. And I love that. I love that Omar Khan is aggressive and wanting to make change and not satisfied with just enough. I love all of that. But here's my problem with this team. The lack of hitting on their draft picks, especially their first round draft picks. Towards the end of Kevin Colbert's tenure, there was a phase where we were not hitting on our first round picks. And it pushed the team back so much that now in some ways they're trying to get out of that hole. Because remember, we went through a phase where, guess what? You had Terrell Edmonds, bust. You had Kenny Pickett, I'll save the Kenny Pickett and Najee Harris thing. I'll save that for a moment. I'll put that on the back burner. Devin Bush, that was a miss. You traded your first round pick for Mika Fitzpatrick, which even looking back at it, I still feel like that was a bad move, and I only say that because he wasn't worth a first round pick because they had him at corner. They didn't even have him in his natural position. He wasn't even having a phenomenal season. But I understand that you want to give him the first round pick so you can seal the deal. So it is what it is. But since then, you haven't had any of your first round picks to stay with the team. The last first rounder to get to a second contract with the Steelers is TJ Watt. And that was 2017, 2018, if I'm not mistaken. So from that point on until now, you have had a slew of first rounders that have not gotten to their second contract. I'm sorry. That's horrible. That's absolutely horrible. And let's be real here with the Kenny Pickett situation. Sure, Kenny Pickett probably could have played better. But the Steelers did not put him in a position to win. Because you decided to keep Matt Canada for an extra year instead of getting rid of him. What made you think keeping Matt Canada for another year would have changed the outcome? He was ass. Everybody knew that he was ass. But you decided to keep him. And in doing so, it messed up Kenny Pickett. And so now you're in a situation where now once again, you're in an offseason where you're trying to figure out who your quarterback is going to be. And even then, while we're talking about quarterback, okay, because I want to reopen this, we probably could have had Justin Fields had we done right by him. I think the reason why we did not get Justin Fields was not because of the money. I think it was because of how they handled his situation. You gave a longer leash to Russell Wilson, but you did not do the same for Justin Fields. From the moment that Justin Fields was traded to the Steelers, what was the number one thing that Mike Tomlin continued to say? Russell Wilson has pole position. So the moment that happened, Justin Fields was never going to be the solution. Justin Fields was never going to be given a fair chance. Justin Fields lucked up that Russell Wilson decided to push a sled and mess up his hamstring. That's what it boils down to, folks. But if Mike Tomlin was actually a fair coach and say, hey, listen, Justin Fields, you're going to have the first half of the season. Russell Wilson, you're going to have the second half of the season, and then we will come to a decision once the offseason is over with. Instead of saying, okay, we're going to pull Justin Fields after 6 games. Even with Najee Harris, a lot of people were upset with what he had to say, but you know what? It was the truth. This is what he said, and I quote, my time in Pittsburgh, it was a lot of learning things. It was a lot of learning experiences. Playing for Mike T, playing in that division, there were a lot of ways I didn't even realize what the NFL was really about until I came to Pittsburgh. I don't want to go into detail with it, but I feel there was a lot of stuff in my game where I could have elevated more and I could have did more. I feel like I just didn't get it done. I feel like I was obviously missing something. It was interesting years there. I'll just say that. Interesting years, end quote. He's right. He's 100% right. The Steelers decided to draft a running back before addressing the offensive line. What makes you think any running back can run behind an offensive line that has Kendrick Green, old-ass Trey Turner, Kevin Dotson, Dan Moore, and Chuks Okorafor? What makes you think any running back can be productive behind that? Nobody can. And it took you a few years to finally realize, hey, we need to address the offensive line. And even then, guess what? It's still not enough. The offense still is not good enough. So why in the world would you put the cart before the horse? But this, in some ways, goes back to a lot of people that deserves blame. Art Rooney deserves some blame because you know why? You can't say in an offseason, we want to run the ball, And then you guys draft a running back in the first round instead of addressing offensive line in the first round. What sense does that make? That's the dumbest thing you could have ever did. A lot of this blame also falls on Kevin Colbert as well, because Kevin Colbert was not hitting on his draft picks towards the end of his tenure. Why in the world would you go and draft Kenny Pickett in the first round? Why would you do that? Because you know why? Because you guys want to rewrite a wrong, because you guys whiffed on fucking Dan Marino, because there was an allegation coming out during his time at Pitt that basically said that Dan Marino was doing coke. If you were so in love with Dan Marino, then you should have went to Dan Marino and asked Dan Marino, hey Dan, are you doing coke? Instead of just waiting 30 plus freaking years and just saying, oh yeah, we're going to get Kenny Pickett because we done seen Kenny Pickett for the last few years. Really? Really? If any of the teams in the top 5 who needed a quarterback passed on Kenny Pickett, passed on any of the other quarterbacks, what does that tell you? That should probably let you know, hey, maybe we shouldn't draft a quarterback this high. Maybe we should wait a little bit longer. But you didn't. And so my main gripe is with Mike Tomlin. Because you know why? Mike Tomlin, year after year after year, continue to say we don't live in our fears and all this Jedi mind trick bullshit. And what does it do? Nothing. You guys play super hard and super rugged in the first half of the season when everybody is just trying to get their feet wet. But when the games really do matter, when the season starts to dwindle down, we start to get ready for the playoffs. Guess what happened? Y'all choke on some Popeye's biscuits. And then guess what? You look like a sourpuss every single time that you don't make it to the damn playoffs. We done went almost 9 years of not making it to the playoffs. And you have not made any significant changes to your coaching staff that says that you are serious about winning. John Harbaugh, your division rival, swallowed his pride and called Chuck Pagano. Hey Chuck, can you join my coaching staff? I got some DBs that need some fixing. He called Chuck Smith. Hey, can you fix on my pass rushers? I want my pass rushers to be more productive. He called a whole bunch of other coaches to join his coaching staff because he is serious about winning. What have you done to say that you are serious about winning? The only 2 moves that you made was get rid of the secondaries coach and linebackers coach. And you only did that as sacrificial lambs because of what happened towards the last game of the season when Derrick Henry basically cleaned the defensive line to a T. The defensive line couldn't even stop a shred of grass in the wind. That's how crazy Derrick Henry was running. You have yet to make any adjustments to your defensive staff. You have yet to make any adjustments to your offensive staff. So what makes you think any person would believe in Mike Tomlin at this point? None. There is nothing that Mike Tomlin can do or say that would make me believe in Mike Tomlin or in the Pittsburgh Steelers. There was a period in time where the Steelers were feared, where the Steelers was a team that a lot of teams had to prepare. Because you knew it was going to be a physical game. Because you knew it was going to be a game where you may be feeling a little bit achy maybe for about a week or so. Now, we're the laughingstock. We are pretenders. Each and every year we are pretenders. And granted, I was one of those people that was drinking from that cup that believed that the Steelers were actually going to do something this year. That the Steelers were actually going to win a playoff game. 1 playoff game. Not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, but 1 playoff game. And they did not do that. They folded when they needed to win the most. And granted, I understand that 5-game stretch was hell. I understand that. But damn, you could have won at least 2 of those games. And you didn't even do that. You went on a 5-game slide, and not once did you think about bringing in Justin Fields. Not once. You still roll with freaking Russell Wilson. Because why? He was the apple of your eye. You wanted to play favorites, and favorites has not gotten you anywhere. Favorites has gotten you eliminated from the playoffs for the past 8+ years. The one thing that I can respect about Bill Belichick, as cutthroat as he was, guess what? He never had favorites. And the one time that he almost did have a favorite, guess what? The owner, Robert Kraft, forced him to trade him. He forced Bill Belichick to trade Jimmy Garoppolo away because they had Tom Brady. Meanwhile, you have somebody that plays favorites every single year. Even when it comes to the free agency signings, favorites. You see how high he talks about people like T. Higgins, Patrick Queen, Patrick Peterson, Darius Slay, DK Metcalf, all those players. And guess what happens? At some point in their career, guess what? They're going to be joining the Pittsburgh Steelers. It happened with Patrick Peterson. It happened with Darius Slay. It happened with DK Metcalf. It's going to continue to happen. Happened with Patrick Queen. Favorites. When can we not go through an offseason where we are the main talked about team? When can we just go through an offseason where we're just putting our head down and we're just working instead of just bullshitting? You, Mike Tomlin, was the person who decided to go out of his way, along with Omar Khan, to meet with a player who had serious allegations in an ongoing investigation going on in Cam Sutton. You met with him. You met with him. And you decided to sign him. Why would you do such a damning thing? Why? And then to make matters worse, you benched Beanie Bishop, who was making plays, who had four interceptions. Meanwhile, Cam Sutton was playing like dog shit every single time that he was on the field. They turned Cam Sutton into a GIF when Isaiah Likely basically threw him down to the center of the earth. And you mean to tell me that I want to believe in this team? Hell no. And then not to mention, let's just keep on going here, folks. You continue to say that you want Cam Hayward and TJ Watt and Minkah Fitzpatrick to experience the confetti, to experience winning a Super Bowl, but you haven't done a damn thing to say that he is serious about wanting us to win a Super Bowl. You haven't done anything. Don't tell me that you want to model the construction of this team to the Eagles when you are not willing to do anything of what the Eagles have been able to do. I want you to think about this for a moment here, folks. The Eagles were able to win a Super Bowl, go through some rift within their locker room, trade away their franchise quarterback, go through a small rebuild, retool again, go and get another head coach, and win another Super Bowl before the Steelers won a playoff game. I want you to think about that for a second here, folks. If I am a team, if I am a Steelers fan, I would be livid. I would be pissed because you know why? We are wasting the years of a TJ Watt. We are wasting the years of a Cam Hayward. Here you have two blue-collar players who work as hard as they do in season, out of season, who continue to hold the Steelers banner up. Even though when everybody says, bro, you should just go somewhere else. You should just go and just try to see if you can hitch on another team and possibly win a championship. But they stay loyal to the team. And y'all haven't done anything to say that, hey, we're going to push our chips in and we're going to find a way to make sure that this team is the best that we can be, so that we can try to get you guys at least a playoff win. TJ Watt doesn't even have a playoff win. He doesn't even have a playoff win. Think about that for a second here, folks. That is ridiculous. As hard as TJ Watt plays, doesn't even have a playoff win. That is a shame before God. And then not to mention, you have somebody in Mike Tomlin who does not want to make serious changes to his coaching staff. When literally we all saw what happened when they had Brian Flores for 1 year. You saw how the defense played so much better. You saw how everybody just did their job a little bit more better. And you never thought about, hey, maybe we need to continue to do this. Maybe we should continue to, bring in some people. And you have opportunities to do it. You could have brought in Robert Saleh. You could have brought in Antonio Pierce. You could have brought in Gerard Mayo. But you didn't want to do that. Do you know why the Eagles are where they are? Do you know why the Ravens are where they are? Do you know why the Rams are where they are? Because you know why? They invest into scouting. They invest into their coaching staff. That is why. It's not just about the players, but it's also about the foundational pieces. Actually expanding your coaching staff. Actually expanding your scouting. Stop just going to the same 4 or 5 different schools every single offseason. Start going to these smaller schools. Because what you're starting to see now is players from these smaller schools are more refined in their techniques and they have more upside with their game. And they don't have half of the antics that some of these players that go to these Power 5 schools go to. Sure, if there's somebody from Alabama that you really like, go. But you go to the same colleges every single year. Alabama, Michigan, Ohio State, Texas, Clemson. Those are the main places you go to. You haven't really touched the West Coast like how you're supposed to. The last time that they went to the West Coast was for who? David DeCastro. And that turned out pretty well. So you have to expand. You have to be in a season of openness. You have to be in a season of expansion if you really want to tell people that I am serious about winning. Stop saying that you're serious when your actions say that, you know what, I want to be shitty. I want to do just enough. I want to just get by so I can continue to extend the streak of saying I have never had a losing season. Bill Belichick has had a losing season. Andy Reid has had losing seasons. Other coaches have had losing seasons. What makes you think that you are bigger than any and all of them? Nothing. And then, to make matters worse, while we were going through that winning streak, you decided to say, and you left it with a smirk on your face, this is why I'm highly compensated. But towards the end of the season, you didn't have a whole lot to say. You look like you just finished eating a bunch of lemons. You didn't know what to say because you got punched in the mouth. You got punched in the mouth by the Eagles. You got punched in the mouth by the Chiefs. You got punched in the mouth by the Bengals. You got punched in the mouth by the Ravens. And you couldn't do anything about it. So stop telling me that you guys are serious about winning. Show it. And this falls on Art Rooney as well. You need to expand your coaching staff. That is the only way that this team can be real contenders. That is the only way. If you do not do that, guess what? You will never win. You will never win a championship. And you know what's going to happen? And I pray to God this does not happen. Cam Hayward and TJ Watt are going to be Hall of Famers who have never won a championship, who have never even whiffed a Super Bowl. It's going to be a whole bunch of what ifs with their career. Do you really want that? No. I don't think nobody really wants them to experience that. But that's a possibility. So why am I so passionate? Why am I so angry about the Steelers? Why am I so angry about Mike Tomlin? Because you know why? Year after year after year, they continue to sell us the same thing. And at some point, it feels like we're like the Cowboys. Every single year, we build ourselves up. We say, hey, this is going to be our year. This is going to be something special than last year and the years before that. And guess what happens? It's the same outcome every single year. 9-8, 10-8, 10-7, 10-6, 10-5, 11-4. It's not enough. Never has been, never will be. This team deserves to win. There are players on this team that have been loyal to this team that deserve to win. And if you are not willing to make the necessary changes, if you are not willing to make the necessary additions to make this team better, then go somewhere else. Just go. Stop wasting people's time. Stop trying to hype everybody up for the season. There's not enough promoting videos. There's not enough teasers. There's not enough trailers. There's not enough of those that can replace the drought, the lack of thirst, the lack of winning that this team has yet to experience. None of it. Here you have the Ravens, your division rival, who have made significant moves to their coaching staff, and you haven't done anything. The most you did was hire a linebackers coach, a no-name linebackers coach. No disrespect to you, big dog. How in the world can you say you want to position yourself to draft a quarterback next year when you don't have somebody on this coaching staff that has experience developing a quarterback? Folks, I could go on a whole another hour about how I am so disappointed in this team, but I don't think nobody really wants to hear that. But I will say this, and I'll leave it, and then we'll do the outro and whatnot. I have very low expectations for this team moving forward. I will not be super dramatic when it comes to us winning and losing. And until significant changes are made, I will somewhat step back when it comes to the support that I have for this team. I have said it public. I've now said it publicly, so now everybody can backtrack and hold me accountable for what I just said. But I'm going to end this episode here. If you guys like what you're listening, please make sure that you guys download the episodes, leave a 5-star review on anywhere and everywhere that you listen to podcasts. Okay, we are available on Spotify. We are available on Apple Podcasts. We are available on anywhere and everywhere that you listen to podcasts. Okay, now there's probably a few other podcasting places that I probably forgot. Those places would be available on the RSS feed. When you go on there to listen, it'll have links to all the places that we are available. Okay. Now, for my YouTube people, make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, turn that notification bell on, leave a comment down below. Leave me your thoughts, my fellow AFC North fans. Let me know your thoughts about your team. Let me know in the comments. So let's have a healthy debate, okay? Now, for my YouTube people as well, we also have a link tree, all right? When you click on that link tree, it will take you anywhere and everywhere that we have Football Junkies content, okay? Remember, the YouTube is Football Junkies Podcast, okay? Football Junkies Podcast. Now for my TikTok people, Football Junkies Pod, okay? Football Junkies Pod. Clips, I know. We will be working on those probably for the next 3 weeks, honestly, because we probably have a lot of clips to make, honestly. So there's that. For my Instagram people, Football_Junkies Pod, okay? Football_Junkies Pod. Junkies Pod is not what? It is together, not spaced, okay? It is together, not spaced. Football_Junkies Pod. You can follow me on Twitter, GMKale, okay? GM space KAILE. It's the same thing with Blue Sky as well. GM Kale, KAILE. As always, I hope I gave you guys the fix that you guys need. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for riding out with me with a divisional rodeo. It was great, and we'll probably do it moving forward, but we'll probably next year we'll probably go a little bit more in depth when it comes to stats for every single team and records and all those different things. So I probably won't be putting out another episode for a while. Now, if anything crazy happens with Aaron Rodgers, maybe I will, but moving forward, I probably won't. I'll probably save everything else for for the draft and whatnot. But I will be putting out clips, posting mock drafts, and other forms of content. So as always, I love you guys. Appreciate you guys so much. This is your GM Kel signing out. Peace and love. Later.